First of all, I'm going to introduce University of Denver coach Rodney Billups, South Dakota State University head coach Eric Henderson, Western Illinois University head coach Billy Wright. So I'm going to start with you, Coach Billups. Thoughts on the Fair Pay to Play Act?
The only thing that I could comment about on this is what's fair, right? And what's fair in California might be different from what's fair in Denver or Colorado and Florida. So what makes fair and whose thought, because it's very subjective. And I'm all for paying the players what they deserve. I think cost of attendance gives that right, and they certainly get more than what I got as a student athlete, probably tenfold with the resources that they have academically, with cost of attendance. So who determines what's fair and what's not fair? That's the only question that I have, but I support it. I just want to make sure that in recruiting we all have the same advantage.
Great point. Fair has a broad definition depending on who you are and where you're at.
Absolutely.
So I really appreciate that. Coach Henderson, your thoughts?
Yeah, very similar, to be honest. I do think the student athlete does deserve some of that right to be paid. I think the cost of attendance was a great step, and yeah, what's fair to some is not always fair to all. So that certainly is an issue, but I like the ideas. I'm not sure that's kind of what direction it will go, but eventually, certainly helping to reward the student athletes is always beneficial, I think.
The conversation is worth having.
Absolutely.
Coach Wright, your thoughts?
Absolutely, just to echo what they say, and I think it's what's fair, and then I think educating the fan. I think when people first hear it, they're thinking, oh, he's just going to pay the kids out of the pocket, and I don't think that's what the intent is. And I think earning money on your own likeness, that's something that I think everyone needs to be educated on and understand that a lot of billionaires in corporate America have made billions off their own namesake and their own inventions or whatever. So I think it wouldn't hurt to let the kids, especially if these kids are growing up in a social media driven society. In their world, that's all they know is this, and how to promote themselves. And I wish when I played AAU back in the mid '80s that we had social media where we can market ourselves and promote ourselves. And I think this is one way to allow some kids to earn some money for their own likeness.
And if they can, I think that's great. I thought it would be interesting to let current high school recruits say, how much do you think you're going to be worth at your next stop? I think it would be interesting to see some of those responses. So, no, great observations, coaches, and thanks for that. We'll jump topics a little bit. 3-point line gets moved back to the international distance. Always looking to make changes and make things to try to adapt to the personnel that are playing the game. Coach Henderson, I'm going to let you open this one up. How much of an impact will it be to move the 3-point line back to the international distance?
Well, last year when Mike was a part of our team, it probably wasn't a big deal, Coach Stemen. But no, just kidding. I think to make it a little bit more universal is something I kind of like to see, and so I'm all for it, to be honest with you. It can help the spacing on the floor and maybe make it a little less physical of a game. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about it to see how it can help us offensively with spacing and things of that nature. So.
And you bring up a good point. I think that was part of it when it does it coincide or coexist well with the freedom of movement, changes they made. Coach Wright, I'll ask you your thoughts on that, moving the 3-point line back.
Yeah. I think I would like to know what was the intent, and if the intent is for spacing, and I'm sure all 5 guys that he plays can shoot. So, but for me, if the intent was to create spacing, if that guy can't shoot, I'm not going out there. Why close out, 23 feet if he can't shoot it from 23 feet? So you're still going to have teams that, scout and look at that, and there's a reason why certain guys are open, and there's a reason why, certain guys are double teamed. So going back to the original rule, if the intent was to create spacing, I don't know how much that will, if they wanted to really impact the spacing of the game, maybe adopt something like the NBA and have a defensive 3-second rule or some type of illegal defense, so you can't camp out in the lane and just sit there and then load up. So, but I think it's good for the game to try to look at different things to try to expand the game. But overall, if that guy can't shoot, we're not closing out the 30. So we're still going to have about 4 guys in the paint. And these guys.
And I like that observation. It's
Sure.
a different way to look at it.
Sure.
To say, hey, if you want to make certain changes, do we always have to go to moving out the 3-point
Right.
distance? I like that perspective. Coach Billups, your thoughts?
I go back and forth with the idea. Being that we were last in our league in 3-point percentage defense, I think that with moving it back, the percentages go down, so it helps us. It helps us a bit, but our game is so much different than every other game. You look at the international game. We play at their stripe, but our rules are a little different. Mm-hmm. You look at the NBA game; they play 4 quarters, just like everywhere else. Our game is so different. I like the attempt of trying to make every game the same, but like Coach Wright said, let's make everything the same. All right, let's play 4 quarters. Let's have illegal defense. Let's make a commitment to making everything universal, like Coach Henderson alluded to.
Mm-hmm. Great observations, because I think there's always everybody. Sometimes making change for the sake of change isn't a great idea, but at the same time, if there are ways we can improve the game and we're not doing it, let's look at doing it. It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out, and I agree with you. My only thought is if you get some of these gyms, when you have high school tournaments in March, at the same time, you got the high school line, you got the women's line, you got the international and the international line. Sure. Who knows? But confusion is probably something that they want to avoid if possible. You guys address some rule things. I like that. G League is going to go to an experimental rule where they say if you get fouled on a 3-point shot attempt, you're going to go to the line, you're going to shoot 1 free throw. If you make it, you get 3 points. If you miss it, play on. Mm-hmm. Whether it's that rule or any other rules, and you kind of brought up some, Coach Wright, that you think would be helpful or that we should at least consider, what are some of those things? I'm going to start with you this time, Coach Wright.
Well, I think the overall goal is to speed up the pace of the game. My recommendation was always stop blowing the whistle.
That's a good.
I mean, we keep adding to the list, and then deferring to the monitor, and the game is prolonged. And I go back to what's the intent, and if the intent is to speed up the game, stop blowing the whistle as much. That's one. But to the free throw, I think the rule, I think it benefits the poor free throw shooter. And I wouldn't be, in favor of that in the college game because, a guy shoots a 3-pointer, he goes up and makes 1, he gets 3 points. I mean, that's summer camp rules.
Yep.
And I would not be in favor of that.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. I like your honesty. Coach Billups.
What he said.
I like your honesty too.
It does reward the bad free throw percentage shooters. If I know that I'm only gonna have to make 1 or shoot 1 to get 3 points, that puts me at a more confident state of mind, especially for a game. If you get fouled, with 2 minutes and 1 second left on the clock, and you go up and you shoot 1 for 3, that's a big difference in that game, especially if you make it. So for me, it's what's the intent, like Coach Wright alluded to, and if the intent is to speed up the game, I think there's other ways we can do it.
Sure, Coach Henderson.
As you know, Coach, I was one of those poor free throw shooters, so to me it makes some sense. No, I'm just kidding. I honestly agree with both these guys. To be honest, if you should reward the good free throw shooters, to be frank, and I agree, and I like the intent as far as speeding up the game, and that makes some sense to me. But I think there's probably other ways to do it.
Practical use of replay, where you just say, hey, no, we're not going to worry about it unless it's in the time where the game's going to be decided. Maybe some of those things would make sense. But I think that's why it's, like I said, again, it's worth having the conversation.
For sure.
Last thing I'm going to touch on, I'll go back to you, Coach Billups. How is social media? You guys referred to social media earlier. How's it changed how you recruit?
I mean, it's night and day for me because these young men and young women, I'd even jump in the both categories with men and women. They want to know that you like their stuff. And for me, I'm 36. I'm kind of in the middle. I don't post. I just watch on social media. Yeah. My assistants don't like doing it. They're older. They just don't like doing it. They don't like having to go to Coach Wright's page and like everything that he posts just to be able to have a phone conversation with him, because that's the first step. Yeah. You know, it's a time. It's a time. It takes a lot of time, and if you don't do it, you really don't have a chance at getting that kid, and I absolutely hate it. I hate that fact.
Yes.
You know, it's not like you can call the high school coach or call the club coach or call the parents and get involved with this kid. No, you have to like him on social media, which is not good.
The age we're in.
So
the age we live and operate.
Yeah.
Coach Henderson.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of similar that it's that Generation Z, and they need that instant feedback.
Yep.
And as soon as you're crazy if you don't think that every time they post a video on social media, well, who checked that? Yeah. Who liked that? Who retweeted that? Yeah. And they're always checking that stuff. And so, like Coach Billups said, you have to be on top of that. And it's a challenge, but that's what we live in, and that's the way it is. Yeah. And the instant feedback is something that we have to provide to them too. But they also want to know, hey, when's that offer coming right now? Absolutely. Instead of when that evaluation is, you know. Exactly. And that's probably part of the reason why there's 1,000 transfers every year too, because that evaluation period doesn't take it has to be so much quicker. And so I think it all goes hand in hand, and so it's a big part, and you have to think about it on a daily basis. Absolutely. There's no doubt.
Absolutely.
What is it Billy Bean said in Moneyball? Adapt or die.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
Coach Wright, your thoughts?
It definitely changed the way I hire.
Yeah.
Like Coach said, it's beyond him, the technology, and you know, I'm a little bit older than he is. It's a little bit obvious he's got. I've been doing this a little bit
only
longer.
Up here, not down
no, you know, the guys, my assistants, do a great job of not only monitoring but just helping me stay. You know, I do the Twitter, that's about it, you know, and I tell the kids, you know, I don't snap this, and I don't face this, but at the same time, I definitely watch and keep up to what's going on and who's doing what, and but my assistants are better at that than I am.
Understandable. Gentlemen, I really appreciate it. Talking about some things that are kind of off the cuff, and thanks a lot for your feedback. I wish you the absolute best in the 2019-2020 season.
Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you.